Good morning and welcome to KCPS Homeroom. I'm Justin Robinson, and today is for 5th and 6th grade students. We will start off with English, then math, science, African American history, and finally Chinese. Hope you enjoyed today's class. Let's get ready to learn with Miss Zeke in English.
My name is Mrs. Zeke. I am the Southeast English teacher in Kansas City Public Schools, and I'm excited to be here with you today. We are going to be building on our previous few episodes' knowledge on the ancient China's history by adding some more English-driven objectives for the day, specifically around the significance of identity in a narrative text. I'm so excited for you all to be practicing along with me today. Today, you will just need your listening ears. I'm going to share a story. We're going to be talking about what elements of that story relate to the identity of the narrator, and then who is this potential speaker of the story. So first, let's talk about the significance of identity. By now in your career, you have written and read many narrative stories along your way, and you're realizing that the significance of the identity of the narrator is crucial. I want to start with looking at the standard. For the 6th grade, and there's an equivalent for 5th, we're looking at the Missouri Standard RL2B, which states, explain how an author develops the point of view of a narrator or speaker in a text. So how the author develops a point of view of the narrator or speaker in a text. That's exactly what we're going to be looking at today with this Chinese story. I want you to be asking yourself as you read any narrative, who is speaking and what do we know about them? Something that can be difficult for students to understand is that there is a character or 2 or 5 who will be literally speaking throughout the story, but there's also a speaker who is telling the story. And that's what we're going to differentiate between today. Don't forget, I know you know this, but I just want to set this reminder. There are 3 major points of view that we look at when reading a narrative text. First person, which is I, second person, which is you, and third person, which is he, she, they, and them. This is significant because the author uses a specific point of view intentionally. Do we want first person, which brings us right into the character's thoughts? Do we want second person as more of an outsider, or third, maybe even farther outside, looking into the story itself and sharing from a third person point of view? So let's give this a try. As we read this story about Nian, I want you to be thinking about those questions. Who is the speaker and what do we know about them? And what point of view is the author writing this story in? Are you ready? All right, get those listening ears ready. You can find the story here on the website if you so choose to go back and look at it. A long time ago, there was a monster named Nian. Nian loved to visit a little village in China each year and scare everybody he saw. He thought that was great fun. He liked to do this just as the new year began to remind people that Nian was still around. Each year, after scaring all the people, he could hardly wait for the new year to roll around so that he could scare them again. This probably would have gone on forever. But one day, just by luck, one of the villagers was wearing a red tunic. Red. When Nian jumped out to scare him, Nian took one look at the red tunic and ran away. He startled the villager so much that the villager dropped a heavy metal bucket he had been carrying. The bucket bounced down the hill behind Nian, hitting every rock in its path. It made a horrible noise. Nian looked fearfully over his shoulder and began running even faster. The villager told everyone of his fabulous luck. This red tunic had scared Nian. The noise of the bucket had sent him running away. This was good news. All year long, the villagers prepared. When Nian appeared the following year, everyone in the village ran for the red banners and the loud rattles they had made. They shook their rattles and waved their banners, and Nian ran away. The villagers never saw him again. That's why people in China believe the color red signifies luck, and why all the children and many adults shake rattles and light firecrackers and make all kinds of noise on the Chinese New Year's Eve. It's to scare evil spirits, even Nian, just in case he's still around. Thinking about our story, thinking about our speaker and his identity in this narrative, can you answer these questions? How does the author develop the point of view of the narrator in the text? Who is speaking and what do they know about them? And is it the first, second, or third point of view? Think about these questions. I want to start here. Who's our speaker? Who do we learn about throughout this story? If you said the villager, you are right. If you said Nian, you are also right. There are two narrators, there are two speakers in this narrative. Both of them, we as the readers find out through third person point of view. So third person is important here. Outsider looking in. This happened many, many years ago. This is the reason why the Chinese New Year exists and why the color red is such a prominent fixture in the celebration of the new year. The speaker's point of view is developed through this storytelling technique. So we learn about Nian, this monster who likes to scare, and the reason why he's not there anymore. The villager scared him with the red and then dropped a bucket, which scared and chased off the Nian. But we also learn about the villager. What do we know about the villager? Well, he ends up being a hero, even if it was by luck. He liked to wear red, and he was carrying heavy buckets that he accidentally threw down a hill towards Nian, which helped save everybody and start this tradition. So the villager's luck has made him a hero for years to come. So when we go back to our question from the standard, how does the author develop this point of view? It's through the storytelling technique in third person, figuring out why a tradition exists, where the story comes from, and then using Nian and the villager to help develop this story into something that hopefully we'll remember for a long time. So what can you do with this information? Apply it to your own English classes. As you read a narrative text, think about these three questions: point of view, speaker, and how the author develops it throughout the text. This will help you really focus in on who's telling the story and why. That's all I have for you today on KCTV. My name is Mrs. Zeke, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
I'm John Hatch, and this is a 5th, 6th grade lesson on understanding unit rates. Something that we need today, supplies would be a math notebook, a pencil, and a 4-function calculator. So if it's one of those like fancy graphing calculators, you don't need that. We just need to know how to use addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Specifically today, we'll be using that division key a whole bunch. While you're going to get that stuff, I'm going to read over the standard for today. The standard is RPA2. Understand the concept of a unit rate associated with a ratio and describe the meaning of unit rate. So let's review some of the things we've talked about over the last couple weeks. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers, sometimes called values or quantities. And those can be written three different ways. Right here we have it written in word form, 4, 2, 1. We have it written in colon form, 4, 1. But remember, we say it as 4 to 1, and it's written as a fraction, 4 over 1, but it's set as 4 to 1. In this example, we have 4 salads. There's 1 egg there, and that is the ratio. Today, we're talking about a rate. A rate is a special type of ratio that compares two quantities with unlike units of measure, and that unit rate compares a quantity to 1 unit of another quantity. As an example, here are 24 bottles of Gatorade, and it says that it's on sale for $24. Here's another one that's $8 and it's 6 bottles. So when we find the unit cost, what we're trying to find out is how much is it for one bottle. Then when we know the unit cost, we can compare. And that's something that we'll be working on next week. And we'll be able to find out which is the best buy, and between buying 24 bottles of Gatorade or buying 6 bottles of Gatorade. One thing that you can do to find this out, to be able to find the unit rate, is that you make a chart. And so right here we have bottles in one column, we have cost in the other, and there are 6 bottles and they are $4. So we have that written out like that. Next, we divide by 2. And this first one we see divide by 2, that's just something we can do mentally. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. $4 divided by 2 is $2. This next one, we can divide the $4 by 6. And this gets a little tricky, and that's where you'll want to be able to use a 4-function calculator. And on this, when you divide, it comes out with the answer as being 0.666666667. And we don't need all of that. In money, there are just 2 numbers behind the decimal point. And so we round in that. So in our answer here, you see that the cost from one bottle is 67 cents. We have another example. So all this stuff's talking about having a party, like a class party. And with this one, it says, buy 3 balloons for $5. Well, how much does that cost for one balloon? And so with that, we can set up a chart. And in the one column, it says 3 balloons. In the other column, it says cost is $5. So 3 and 5, there's not a common factor. So that's kind of a tough one, and you'll need to use a calculator on that one. And so with that, when you have the $5 and you divide it by 3, it comes out to be 1.66666, a whole bunch of numbers after the decimal. And again, we can just round that up. So it says $1.67. And so that's how much one balloon would cost. The moms of the classroom were wanting to have a party. They were wanting to buy balloons for the classroom. They were wanting to have cupcakes. And they found it where it's 4 cupcakes for $6. So we make a chart. The first column says cupcakes, 4 of them. The cost is $6. Well, we can divide that by 2, and that comes out pretty easy. You can do that in your head. It's now 2 cupcakes, and it's $3 a piece. So we're getting closer to knowing how much one would cost. But then we might need to use a calculator on this next one. And when you divide $6 by 4, it comes out to be $1.50. On the calculator, you can see that it shows 1.5. And since there are 2 digits behind the decimal, you make that other digit a 0. So 1.50 or $1.50. Hey, let's try a few problems together. On this one, the science club at school wants to feed birds in the little science garden area. They found 4 pounds of bird seed that costs $12. Let's find the rate for just 1 pound. So we have a chart here. We write down bird seed in the first column. We write down the cost, $12 in the second column. When you divide both those numbers by 2, it comes out to be 2 pounds is $6. Well, we can divide that again. Divide it by 4, and you get down to 1 pound. That's what we're looking for, where it's just one of something. 1 pound is $3. So when they're looking at buying bird seed, they would be looking at it at being $3 a pound. Well, let's do another example. Instead of it being bird feed, this time they're looking at hummingbird feeders. And they found where they could buy 6 of them for $24. Well, how much does one cost? You make a chart. In the first column, you put the number of feeders. In the other column, you put that it's $24. If you divide both those by 2, you know it's 3 for feeders and it's $12. So we're getting closer to just 1 feeder, but we're not quite there yet. On this next one, when we divide 24 by 6, we can get that there's 1 feeder and it's $4. So each of those feeders would cost $4. Well, let's try this one. The science club wants to feed the squirrels, And so they bought some special acorns, 24 acorns for $14. Well, how much does one cost? So they set up the chart. Acorns, they're 24. The cost is $14. And you can divide by 2, and that gives you 12. And that's $7. That one's kind of easy. On the next one, you can divide by 4. That's a little bit harder, but you can still do that in your head. And it comes out to be 6 acorns, and it costs $3.50. Well, we definitely want to use a calculator for this next one. To divide by 8, you now get 3 acorns for $1.75. So we're starting to get close, but we're going to have to use the calculator to find that 1 acorn costs 58 cents. So that's how we find the unit rate for that. So let's try some on your own. We have these items right here. The first item that we see on the left is 6 Hubba Bubbas. And so we're going to find out if it's $12 for all that bubble gum, how much will it cost for one? For the Beyblades, there are 4 Beyblades for $28. And we're going to find out how much it is for one. For the 8 slime and putty, it is $26. And we're going to find out how much it is for one. So let's give you a minute and a half to be able to find out how much it is for 1 Hubba Bubba, 1 Beyblade, and 1 slime and putty. Well, here's a minute and a half. All right, 10 more seconds. Okay, let's do the one in the middle first. The 4 Beyblades. So we set it up so that the cost for 4 was $28. You can do it in your head that it's for 2 of them is $14, and for 1 Beyblade it ends up being $7. The next one, we're gonna look at the Hubba Bubba. When there were 6 for $12, the next one was 3 for $6, 2 for $4, and 1 Hubba Bubba cost $2. The last one that we're going to look at is 8 slime and putty that cost $26. And you could do the divide by 2. That gets you close for it to be 4 slime at $13. But you'll need to use a calculator to find the rate for 1. And it costs $3.25 for 1. So that's how we found the unit rate for each of those items. Let's go ahead and review what we've talked about for today. A ratio is a comparison of 2 numbers, also called values and quantities. A rate, the part that we talked about today, is a special type of ratio that compares 2 quantities with unlike units of measure, and that unit rates compare a quantity to 1 unit of another quantity. Such as the 24 Gatorades. If they cost $12 for that whole box of Gatorade, then we find out that for 1, the unit rate would be 50 cents. So this concludes our lesson on finding unit rates. I sure am glad that you joined us today to be able to do some math together. Don't forget about going to the homepage to be able to download the homework assignment. And we'll see you next week when we'll solve some problems on unit rate. Have a good day.
Hi everyone, my name is Ms. Shirashiva and I'm here with Kansas City Public Schools, and today we're going to continue learning about ecosystem. After this video, you will be able to explain that every organism has very specific role in ecosystem. You will be able to identify that specific role, what organisms are the producers, consumers, and what organisms are decomposers in ecosystem, and you will be able to describe how energy derived from the sun is used by plants to produce sugar and is transferred within a food chain from producers to consumers. Okay guys, let's go ahead and revisit what is an ecosystem. We learned it last video. An ecosystem is an environment where living and non-living things interact with each other. When you look at the world around you, how do you group what you see? What is living and what is non-living thing? It may sound simple, but it is sometimes difficult to decide whether something is truly alive or not. All right, guys, let's look at our miniature ecosystem we have created last time. Our ecosystem model is doing really well. We can observe living things such as plants. There is a microorganisms. We can't really see them with a bare eye. And so you can see non-living things there as well, such as soil, water, air, and sun. As a plant loses some leaves, they are broken down by bacteria and it's become a nutrient for the soil so the plant can use it to survive. With the right balance, the ecosystem inside of this glass jar survive for years. All living things have common characteristics. And if you look at all these examples, you might tell, really? I don't see any common characteristics between human and animals and plants. So they have ability to grow and develop. They all have ability to respond to their environment. In this slide, you can see example of hibernation and their response to the changing environment, such as cold weather. And they have ability to reproduce, to have offsprings. All living things can be divided in three groups: producers, which are plants, green plants, consumers, and decomposers. You already know that all living things need energy to grow and survive. Energy gives us the power to do things. But how producers, consumers, and decomposers get their food? Everything starts from the sun. The sun is the main source of energy for ecosystems. Plants are producers. They can use the sun's energy to produce their own food. Plants use the process called photosynthesis to produce their own food. Consumers cannot produce food directly from the sun energy. They must eat other organisms, such as plants and animals, to get energy. When organisms die or produce waste, decomposers break them apart into nutrients, food again. Examples of decomposers are bacteria, worms, and mushrooms. All the energy we get from food can be traced back to the sun. How? Producers need the sun energy for photosynthesis process when they create their own food. In our example, consumer, which is rabbit, eats grass and is got eaten by another consumer, which is wolf. If wolf dies, its body can be break down by decomposers. In our examples, they are worms. Let's go ahead and look at example which we can relate to. Plants or grass gets energy from the sun. It's got eaten by consumer caterpillar. And caterpillars got eaten by turkey. And guess what? We eat turkey, so we are consumers as well. Here's your homework. Please create your list of producers, consumers, and decomposers and explain how they connected with each other. And important, don't forget that Everything starts from the sun. All right, let's summarize. Today we have learned that every organism has a very specific role in an ecosystem, such as producers, consumers, and decomposers. We also learned that everything starts from the sun. And we also can explain now how the energy from the sun transferred to producers and consumers. Observe your environment, guys, and find your very own examples of producers and consumers. Explain how they connected to each other and how they all connected to the sun. And this is all I have for today, and I will see you in the next video.
Hi everybody, Professor Reese back with another edition of African American History. We've talked about kings, queens, warriors, we've talked about empires, and we've also talked about the continent of Africa. So moving on down that timeline, it's time to start talking about the slave trades themselves, how they occurred out of Africa. The slave trade started in the 1400s when the Portuguese landed on the western coast of Africa. Remember, we talked a little bit about that. One of my favorite countries, Sierra Leone, that was their departure point back to Portugal and or Brazil with slaves. Started very, very small, 19 slaves, 50 slaves. And there was even an occasion where the Portuguese would make trades with the kings of the different countries. They would bring rum, textiles, different things that maybe Africa or the continent or that country did not have. So they were trading for slaves, but then it began to be an all-out war. Now remember, we talked about one of the queens, Queen Nzinga, who killed up to 10,000 Portuguese defending her country. So it wasn't just a slam dunk for anybody, but let's start talking about the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, these are some maps that reference the trades themselves. In the beginning, like I said, in the 1400s, the Portuguese were on the western coast of Africa, and this is where they came, picked up slaves, did trading of slaves, and took slaves back to Brazil and Portugal. So it wasn't an all blown out effect yet. That's where we get into the diaspora, but that's in our second lesson. Our second map here is a map when it became an all blown out slave trade. This was the routes that they took to the different countries. Okay, the Atlantic slave trade developed after contacts were established between the old world and the new world. You ask me, what is the new world? New world was what America was called. Old world being what was already established prior to the Americas. There was an Africa or Afro-Eurasia contact through the old world and the new world, the Americas. So once again, there was some trading going on, but not a whole lot, because before the 1400s or during the 1400s, a lot of the vessels or ships did not have the power to make it from the Americas over to the continent of Africa. Okay, so slavery, prevalent in all parts of the world. As I said, when you have kings or kingdoms or queens, sometimes you have people that are not part of the royal family, right? Right. So those people work for the king or the queen. They're not exactly called slaves, but we'll go ahead and use that term loosely. Okay, so from the beginning of the Atlantic slave trade, slavery was prevalent. There's evidence that enslaved people from some parts of Africa were exported to other countries in Africa, Europe, and Asia. After the colonization of the Americas, the New World, they begin to see that, wait a minute, Portuguese, they got a piece of this. Brazil has got a piece of this. This is free labor, and we could use that labor. So the British privateered a Portuguese ship. They had some maybe 50 slaves on it. Took over the vessel, the Portuguese vessel, and brought those slaves back to Britain. Okay, during the slave trade, they had what was known as the triangular trade, aptly named so because it created a triangle. What was happening was that there was exportation of goods from Europe to Africa. Then we took slaves or Africans to the Americas. And then the third leg of it is the Caribbean islands, where we would also take goods and merchandise. So they had a triangular trade going on too. Pretty inventive. So what have we got so far? We've got the 1400s with the Portuguese starting to come over to the continent and make negotiations for slaves as well as take slaves, because we can say this much. There were more slaves that were taken and kidnapped than slaves that were traded. Now, we all know through history that in 1619, the slaves were first brought to the Americas, or to America. These are some of the pictures, or these are pictures, excuse me, of what the slave quarters look like. I don't know if you can see very closely here, but they're tight, folks. And then in some of the vessels, they would even put the slaves on shelves, as you would do, I don't know, books, pottery. So you can imagine the shelves were very small. So if you were of average height, which for an American, I guess is 5'5", 5'6", if you were of average height, you were, for the voyage, you were continuously slumped. And the voyage usually took anywhere from 30 to 35 days. So that's a long time to be in that position. Women and children were usually allowed on deck or on the top deck. So this is the ships, or pictures of the ships that were used in the Atlantic slave trade. Okay, so here's what we know for sure. The Atlantic slave trade happened first in the 1400s. We moved on down to the 1600s into the 1700s, where other countries became involved. Those countries were Britain. Those countries, of course, was Europe. We had Asia involved. We had the Portuguese involved. We had Spain. We had the Netherlands. Everybody was involved in coming over to Africa and procuring slaves for either their plantations, their businesses. It was free labor. Going from the transatlantic slave trade to the diaspora, they're really kind of intertwined, but it's kind of a separate initiative that came a little bit later. So I'm going to do that in another segment. So I hope you've had fun learning a little bit about the transatlantic slave trade. And in parting, as we always do, we close it with an African proverb. And this proverb states, "Sticks in a bundle are unbreakable. Sticks in a bundle are unbreakable." That's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Hi everyone, this is Miss Lu, and this session is Intermediate Chinese. So this semester, we are going to learn about Chinese idioms and the stories behind it, okay? So the story we're going to learn today and the idiom we're going to learn today is 掩耳盗铃. 掩耳盗铃. So our objective for today, students will know how to say the word 掩耳盗铃, and we'll also write it. And also the story behind the idiom. And the things you may need is your notebook and pencil, because later on we are going to write the characters together. Okay, so I'll give you 10 seconds to grab a notebook and pencil if you don't have it with you. And let's get ready to learn. Before that, let's do a review. So if you still remember the idiom we learned last time, 胸有成竹. Okay, so which means have a very well thought plan before act. Together, 胸有成竹. 胸有成竹. Okay, so that was for last time, and today we will focus on 掩耳盗铃的故事. Like usual, we'll go over the story in Chinese, and then we are going to explain the story to make sure you understand it. Then we're going to write the characters together, and we'll learn how to use them in a sentence. Okay, 掩耳盗铃的故事。有个小偷跑到范氏家里，看见院子里有一口大钟，大钟很好看，小偷想把大钟搬走，可是大钟太重了，小偷搬不动，小偷想到一个办法，可以把大钟砸碎，把碎片一个个拿走。他拿了一个锤子，砸向大钟，大钟的声音非常响。小偷害怕别人听到声音，于是他把自己的耳朵塞住，这样就听不到响声了。当锤子砸向大钟时，大家听到了大钟的声音，一起把小偷抓住了。Okay, so 掩耳盗铃的故事。This is a very fun story. So there was a thief who sneaked into the Fan family, who was very rich at that time, and he saw a giant bell in the yard, and the bell was very beautiful, was luxurious. So he wanted to steal the bell, but the bell was too giant and very heavy. He could not move it by himself. And then he thought a way. Why not just smash the bell into pieces? In that way, he can take the pieces away one by one. So he took a hammer and hit it to the bell, but the bell was very loud. So the thief was afraid that other people would hear the sound and get him, so he stuffed his ears, because in this way he could not hear the sound of the bell. However, when he hit the bell again, all other people, they heard the sound, and then they come together, arrested the thief all together. Okay, so this is a very funny story. And then 掩耳盗铃 is the idiom we concluded from the story. Let's say that word together. 掩耳盗铃，掩耳盗铃，掩耳盗铃. So basically, you will stuff your ear when you steal the bell. That's the character by character meaning. So today we usually use it if somebody is deceived like themselves. We'll call that person is 掩耳盗铃. Okay, so now I would like you to write the character, take notes together with me. Okay, 掩耳盗铃，掩耳. So you stuff your ear. 盗铃 Steal the bell. 掩耳盗铃，掩横竖钩提横撇捺竖横竖横横 and then 竖弯钩沿 okay 耳横竖竖横横横 Yan means hide, and here it means like cover, stuff your ear, R, okay? 到点点撇横折撇点竖横竖 okay? 竖竖横 到 means still, and then 零 bell 撇横横横竖钩撇捺点横折点 Okay, stuff your ear, still the bell, so you're deceiving yourself, you're lying to yourself. Okay, 掩耳盗铃 together, 掩耳盗铃掩耳盗铃 So now let's see some example how to use 掩耳盗铃 So first one, 一做事要认真不要掩耳盗铃 So when you are doing something, you should be careful and serious. Do not lie to yourself. Do not deceive yourself. Okay? 不要掩耳盗铃。二，他做的是掩耳盗铃的蠢事。So the thing he did is like 掩耳盗铃 deceiving himself. 掩耳盗铃是一种看上去很聪明，其实很笨的方法。掩耳盗铃 seemingly seems smart. You cover your ear, you cannot hear the sound, but other people can hear it. So don't lie to yourself, don't deceive yourself. Okay, so these are examples of how to use 掩耳盗铃。做事要认真，不要掩耳盗铃。他做的是掩耳盗铃的蠢事。掩耳盗铃是一种看上去很聪明，其实很笨的方法。Okay, so 掩耳盗铃 this is the idiom we learned today, and you have a 作业, so your homework for today, like usual. Please write down 掩耳盗铃 by yourselves. Write it 3 times by yourself on your notebook and try to create a sentence with it. See if you know how to use 掩耳盗铃 now. Okay? And this is Miss Lu. Thank you for listening. It's always been my pleasure having you in my class. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Miss Lu, and thank you to all the classroom teachers today. They will all be back next Thursday with lessons again targeted for your 5th and 6th grade students. Tune in tomorrow, Friday, for the Real World Learning Show for secondary students. Thank you all at home for joining us. Have a great day, and remember, continue learning throughout the day.
Hello, we're happy to have you visit Carver. We are a dual language school where our students become truly bilingual and biliterate.
Welcome to Carver Dual Language.
Hola, bienvenido al primer grado en Carver. Welcome to first grade in Carver. In kindergarten and first grade, all students learn to read and write in Spanish.
Welcome to 4th grade at Carver. In 4th grade, our students have the opportunity to join our robotics team. Our students work together on a community project and learn to code a robot's movements.
By 6th grade, Carver students are truly bilingual and biliterate. Students can fluently speak, read, and write in both Spanish and English. Carver students move on to much success in middle school, high school, and beyond.
We celebrate Hispanic heritage throughout the year at Carver Dual Language. Each year, students develop a plan to make goods to develop and to sell at our mercado. This is our annual fall market that classes have booths that students come together and sell their items that they've created. Staff, community members, family, parents, grandparents, all can come together, buy the goods, and celebrate Hispanic heritage together.
In Carver, we have an involved PTA where parents and families can be part of our school community.
Thank you for joining us on this tour. If you would like to schedule a personal tour or learn more about our school, please call 816-418-4925.
they will teach you anything, even if that's not their subject. After school, you can always go to them and ask, oh, can you help me on this problem? I really don't understand it. And if like you're feeling down, I'll always be here. And there's other people because there's a lot of people that are nice. Even if they're not in your grade, they'll still talk to you.
There's so much diversity, and even though there's a lot of diversity, everyone is kind to each other, and the teachers are still kind to us too.
Well, one of my vice principal helped me do math. I didn't used to know really math. She told me that if I try math hard, I'll get it. And then I told her I can't. She said I will, and then I tried to cry it out. I told her I can't. And she said she teach me. I listened to her. I told her I can't, and then she said you can do this. And then I said okay. And then I tried it, and it was really fun. I really like math now. I'm trying to be a math teacher. I want to be a tutor.
Teachers, they help us to be a good student because they can help you through life and they can teach you lots of things.
I was struggling with one of my math work, and I told my teacher about it. She was like, "You don't give up." And then I tried. It was kind of hard, so I went to, and then the teacher made a morning meeting where we go to her meeting, and she helped us out with whatever we need help with.
I'll tell them to try something they never do. I'll prove them the school is better for them, just for the future. I want them to see how it is about school. I want them to feel good about school.
It's a really amazing school, and it's probably the best school that anyone would go to.
My teacher is Miss Cunningham, and one thing that I like about Miss Cunningham is that she helps me. She helps me through math, even though I'm really hard at it, and she helps me through everything that I've been through this week.
What surprised me the most about Gladstone Elementary School out of the other school I went to is everyone. Everyone helps people when they're down. The teachers help you. Some of my other school, they didn't do that. The principal helps. They make good subjects. They even made day where you they even made culture day. Every school celebrates that, but Gladstone is different. It's like a dream come true. It's like a dream come true here at the school. The teachers will always help you no matter what. Doesn't matter if it's not their subject. They will teach you after school if the other teacher's not there for you.
Whittier Elementary, you see all these nice people, and really they communicate with you and teach you things that you haven't learned.
You will learn a lot in a day here, and then we might go over it, but that's the best part, for you can know everything about it. So we'll go over it, and if you don't understand it, we'll go over it again.
I am Lincoln Middle.
At Lincoln Middle School, students discover their talents and passions, where teachers plant the seeds of lifelong learning.
I am Lincoln Middle,
where excellence is nurtured. Students develop the skills to be successful in school, career, and beyond.
Je suis Lincoln Middle.
Lincoln Middle is the public school where your child will thrive and grow. Open a world of possibilities. Apply today. Learn more at enrollkc.org/Lincoln Middle.
The desire to create lives within each of us. From Grammy-winning producers and musicians, to NBA stars, to Navy admirals and Medal of Honor recipients, to internationally renowned artists, and beloved local muralists, Paseo graduates have been creating their own success, their own history, their own legacy since 1926. Now it's your time. Create your future at Paseo Academy of Fine and Performing Arts. Learn more at enrollkc.org/Paseo.